Hey friends, welcome back to another episode of the TV Tray Sessions here at Guitar Talk with Todd at Todd Beebe Music. Today we have an awesome piece of music memorabilia. If you're a Montrose fan, I know I certainly am. Ronnie Montrose, one of my biggest influences. It's an honor for me to be one of the administrators actually on the Ronnie Montrose Facebook page as well as the Gamma Facebook page as well. So that's a big honor for me, and Ronnie was a huge influence on me. Not only his rock stuff, but everything he did. I always loved his albums like The Speed of Sound and Territory and Open Fire. And Ronnie did a lot of great session work as well with various people. He was in the Edgar Winter group. You can hear him playing on the classic They Only Come Out at Night album. He played on Van Morrison's Tupelo Honey album. That's Ronnie playing on there. He's doing the guitar on Wild Nights. Montrose Band was formed with Ronnie, of course, put it together with Bill Church on bass. Bill Church also played on the Tupelo Honey album. The bass all on there is Bill. Ronnie was good friends with Bill until Bill was in the band right from the get-go, pretty much, the Montrose Band. And then Denny Carmassi on drums was a friend of Sammy Hagar's, who Sammy was unknown at that time, which is hard to believe now. But in 1973, when that debut came out, that was the first thing we had heard from Sammy. And boy, he obviously went on to have a great career after he started with Ronnie. The debut Montrose album is just spectacular. So many bands cite that as an influence, and boy, you could totally hear it. Van Halen and so many other bands played those tunes in the bars when they were coming up. They always covered Montrose. So it's just kind of ironic that years later, Sammy ended up being in Van Halen. But anyway, that's a whole other story. But love Ronnie. Such a diverse guitar player and such a great, iconic musician. Was able to do the hard rock stuff like we saw and heard on the debut Montrose, but also went on to do, like we said, instrumental albums, nice acoustic pieces, and just such a great, diverse musician and such an influence of mine. That first Montrose album, like we said, is just awesome, but so awesome that many times some of the other albums after that get overlooked. Paper Money, which also featured Sammy Hagar singing, is just incredible. And a lot of times, like I said, that album gets overshadowed because of the debut being so powerful. But that's a great one too. And right away, Ronnie was showing his diversity with instrumental tunes like Starliner. And they do a great version of the Stones' Connection. Really great album. And then the one after that I loved as well, Warner Brothers Presents Montrose. That introduced us to the great Bob James. This time Alan Fitzgerald came into the band and we had some different lineup changes going on. That album is incredible, and Bob James was an incredible singer. Bob also was on the following album, which was Jump On It from Montrose. And about that time, the following year, like I was saying, Ronnie went into some things on his own and he released his first solo album, Open Fire. And that's just incredible. If you've never heard that, that's just so diverse and really a great example of what Ronnie Montrose was all about, in my opinion. So check that out as well. But for today, we are talking about the Montrose Band. And so let's go back to 1973. That album was released, and this is a advertisement flyer here for Montrose with Mistress and Grayson Street at the Uptown Arena in Modesto, California. And this was a rockin' chair production. This is just great. You've got stuff on here like the blimp that somebody drew with the Montrose banner in the back. I love it. $4 in advance for tickets. $4, people. Just crazy. But you had to pay $4.50 at the door if you didn't get. So they really got you then with that $4.50. Sunday afternoon, January 27th. So The debut Montrose album was released on October 17th of 1973. This is January 27th, so this would have been 1974, obviously very early 1974, and that album had only been out a few months at that point, so it was very, very hot, and they were out just playing everywhere. Obviously, Ronnie and the band were from California, so they were hitting all kinds of places out in the California area, and Montrose was just on fire at that time. So this is a show, like we said, at the Uptown Arena. Let's look at some things here at the bottom. It says Modesto Warehouse Records, Far Around Records, Mother's Records, and Records by Twilight. In Stockton at the Music Box. Manteca at Janice's Music, Bare Necessity, Turlock, William Carroll, Pantrack, Oak Day, Witt's Music Box, and Merced at the Music Box Middle Earth. Comment below, you guys, if anyone's familiar with any of these, if you lived out there in the Modesto area and you're familiar with any of this stuff. Drawing for a free water bed from Curlin's Discount Water Beds. I love it. So this is great. Let's flip this over and take a look at the other side. We're going to come back here to this in a second, but flipping this over here, we actually have, you can see the debut Montrose album cover there in the back. I'm just assuming everyone watching this is probably familiar with the debut Montrose album. If you're not, oh man, do yourself a musical favor and check that out. It is rock and roll. I guess some people would label it as hard rock, but it is just the template for hard rock, in my opinion. That album came out, and all of a sudden, just things changed. You had that whole 70s rock sound that happened, and a lot of that is traced back to that debut Montrose album. Just incredible. So anyway, there it is. Warner Brothers 0598 special, only $3.66 was what they were charging for that album at that time at the Warehouse Records, Tapes, Funky Junk. And that offer expired January 30th of 1974, so you didn't have much time. There was only, they were giving you a few days to get down after this show happened and grab that album for $3.66. Largest selection of records and tapes in the Valley, and that was located at 2801 McHenry Avenue in Modesto. Open 10 to 10. Wow, that's just crazy. I love seeing stuff like that. So let's flip this back over and look at the front here. Okay, so back on the front, looking at the Montrose advertisement again for the show. Again, this was at the Uptown Arena. I've pulled up a couple of things here about the Uptown Arena. I'm going to put some pictures up. So originally, this was the Fisk and Davis Fireproof Garage, and from what I could tell, it says it opened in 1919, and then it became the Uptown Arena in 1940. All right, so the story with this building, from what I'm reading here, it says this long-awaited two-story reinforced concrete garage was described as second to none, and that's the type of opening it received. Hundreds of people ushered in the new year at the fireman's dance given as the opening of the new garage. People began to gather around 9 o'clock when the large orchestra struck up the music on the second floor. The firemen had decorated the entire second floor with flags and greenery and built a platform for the orchestra in the center of the floor. On the ground floor, between the entrance and the gangway leading to the second floor, all the latest models of Oldsmobile cars were on display. Another area displayed the new car recently purchased for Fire Chief George Wallace. The firemen and all attending described themselves as well pleased with the celebration, especially Walter Fisk and Lauren Davis. Although the garage had changed ownership before 1925, it remained a garage until about 1933 when it became Valley Tractor and Equipment, owned by Harold Hilton. After World War II, it transitioned into a sports venue called the Uptown Arena, devoted to boxing and wrestling. When interest in those sports began to fade, the building became an area auto parts warehouse and finally storage for the Modesto Police Department. So I'm going to put a couple shots up here. One of them's an aerial shot of Modesto, and you can see the Uptown Arena there in the lower right-hand corner, and then I'll put a picture up of the building and how it looked. I don't know if this building is still standing today. I haven't really been able to find any information about that. Please comment below, you guys, if anyone knows about that building. Do you live in California? Are you familiar with the Modesto area? Definitely comment if you were at the Uptown Arena, but let me know if it's still there. Comment below. Would love to know. But it's always cool to, revisit old places like this that were cool and supportive of bands and music at any time, but certainly back in the day. So Montrose did play at the Uptown Arena on January 27th, 2 p.m. Sunday afternoon. Mistress and Grayson went on. So I'm going to say, let's say an hour for each of those bands. So I'm going to guess Montrose went around on sometime around 4 o'clock out there on the 27th of January in Modesto at the Uptown Arena in 1974, and what a band. Comment below, you guys, again, anything you know about the Uptown Arena or just Montrose in general. Are you a Montrose fan? Like I said, I know I certainly am, and it's an honor for me to be one of the administrators, actually, for the Ronnie Montrose Facebook page and the Gamma page as well. If you're not familiar with Gamma, that was Ronnie's band in the early 80s. The debut album came out in 1979, and Ronnie got back together. Denny Carmassi ended up in that band on the second album. He came back with Ronnie, and so he was on Gamma 2 and Gamma 3. And that was just incredible stuff, again, showing Ronnie's diversity and his ability to adapt rock guitar and rock songs into a market at the time that was just dominated by synth pop and, the music of the early 1980s. So that was just great stuff. Gamma, just an awesome band. The incredible Davey Pattison on vocals. So check them out too. But anyway, any Gamma stories, Montrose stories, if you were at the Uptown Arena, let me know. If you know it's still standing there, let me know. Please comment. I love to interact with all of you. Please hit that subscribe button in the lower right-hand corner and help me out. I appreciate it. Find me on Facebook at Todd Beebe Music. And we will see you all again. Stay safe and love your dogs. Take care.